Welcome to the Studio 70 podcast. Our goal is for you to join in on real, behind-the-scenes conversations about our projects and the people who make them happen. Thank you for joining us.
For the next few episodes, I would love to cover the past. I'd love to catch up and go through kind of the short history of Studio 70 so that the rest of our podcast series can be a little more forward-looking and sort of present. But I think you and I, Tim, we're kind of still recovering from a bit of whiplash, aren't we, from the past few years?
From which one?
I mean, just so much has happened, and there's so much to unpack. So maybe by taking a look at the past, we can be better prepared for the present and future.
So as far as history goes, I'm the second oldest member, but you would be the oldest. So
that is correct.
If I can ask, here's what I remember. You graduated PBA 2 years ahead of me, so I guess in 2018. And so I knew you, and I knew you were working at King's, but I didn't know much of what was going on other than occasionally I remember hearing that you were building like a spaceship set or something, but I didn't know what that really meant. And you had loosely talked to me about maybe working here, maybe. But could you kind of fill me in on how you started working here and then what you did before I got here?
Yeah. And I've also learned like what was happening even before I was here. Because Studio 70, I got here and it was already an established thing on campus. It was a recognized name. But what they had been doing for years was primarily the broadcast morning announcements. I think it was 2015 when they did their first round. And the intention was to do it every single day, every single morning.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which you and I mean, already, that sounds so stressful, right?
Yeah, that's like video announcements?
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Live stream to every class.
Oh, they were going to it was going to be literally live.
And it was for the first semester.
That's actually wild. Who
Yes.
did that?
It was, oh man, I don't remember. I don't think I ever
Before
met
you
them.
worked? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was years before I got here. But the studio, they had taken this old classroom that we're currently sitting in, refurbished it, soundproofed it, and made it ready to go for broadcast. And we've seen like many schools do that sort of morning announcements broadcast thing. Mm-hmm. And they even make fun of it on like the Spider-Man
I was thinking
series,
of that,
right?
yeah, just the people like sitting there, kind of low production value. I have no idea how the Kings ones were, but in Spider-Man, it's like that.
But it goes to show you that it's such a common experience across America for your high school to have a kind of low quality broadcast that they're making fun of it in the Marvel films, that it's a recognizable gag. And, I haven't really like gone through and watched those old ones, the live streamed versions. But from what I heard, there were challenges in making them engaging because, I mean, how would you go about making story packages every day?
Depends on what they're announcing. Because like right now, our announcements over the intercom, right? It's more like a list of updates like, hey, if you're in robotics club or hey, if you're, have a volleyball game, whatever. So if that was video, I guess you could just sit someone in front of it and do it. But if it's like the morning announcements we made in broadcasting class where you're supposed to be talking about and like doing little skits and stuff, you would just need the right people in front of camera.
Right.
Like us being such funny
amazing people.
So.
Well, there was this, when I got here and was looking at refurbishing what we did, I researched other schools, and there is one school in New Jersey that does a phenomenal morning announcements program. But there's a staff of 3 people, an engineer, a creative director, and like a camera guy who run just that every single morning.
That's their only job.
That's their only job, running basically a news channel that they graft the students into. So every morning, those students are able to actually have story packages that they've gone out, filmed, interviewed, and brought back and edited, and rinse, wash, repeat, 5 days a week. So it's an incredible operation they have there, but we didn't have the staff. And so what it ended up being was exactly what you said, the normal morning announcements. Please stand for the pledge. Today there's a club meeting. And I think there was a bit of a redundancy there. Like, why are we putting in so much effort into videoing these when it's really just somebody sitting in front of the camera talking at me for 5 minutes?
Totally get it.
So they pivoted. I believe it was that very following semester. They said, okay, let's change things up. Maybe we do once a week. And that those 5 days leading up, we're working on story packages. And that's exactly when the same exact format you and I entered into.
Which was still so hectic.
Yes.
It's like, I can't even imagine.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about your impression Because I have my own thoughts, of course, but you come in and you're teaching this class like right out the gate.
Oh my gosh.
What was the format? Because basically that's what it had been for years.
Okay. So then we're jumping ahead to 2020 when I started working here. But if this is how it was before I got here, I can tell you my genuine impression. It's a room of maybe 16 kids who have varying degrees of film experience throughout the week. They, in small teams, decide they're going to do like a little story, like they're going to interview their friends about their favorite ice cream flavors, or go film like a little segment of a volleyball game, or they're going to do like a prank video where they're going to scare teachers or something like that. And these packages have to get vetted at the beginning of the week by a faculty member, which is sometimes hard because like their proposals are often like vague. Like my package is going to be sports. And you're like, that's not really a story. That's just a topic, and barely a topic at that. You get more specific. And then they start filming, and then the ideas change as they go through the week. And so by like day 4, it's like, oh, this is kind of a sports package, but it's really more something else, but it's due today. So whatever. And then we also had to deal with a lot of like editing things where
because this content reflects the value of our school, and so if an interview went on a tangent that wasn't exactly high quality or reflecting in our values perfectly, we then had to take that package, and it would be you or I late on a Thursday night
or
Friday morning,
early at like 5 a.m. on a Friday,
trying to edit out and fix. And
unless you've edited something before, like a lot, you do tend to think of editing as in being done as when you reach the end of the timeline, which is not the case because you have to tighten it. But even if you don't have to tighten it, I don't know how many times on a Thursday at 3:05 a student come up to me and be like, I'm done. All I have to do is add B-roll, level the sound, and add music, and then export it. I'm like, so you're absolutely not done. Like they're handing the timeline off to me to finish. And I'm like, okay, so I've got an hour's worth of work for me. Probably would have been like 6 hours worth of work for someone who's newer to Premiere, like, I don't know, your 9th grade, whatever. Understandable. That was the thing, is you can't just go on the announcements Friday morning and say, hi, my name is Mr. DeMoss, and my students did a bad job. That's not me. That's not me, I promise. Like, it's because it's my class.
It's insane. I used to talk to David Snyder about this, who was our conservatory director at the time, and he said, yeah, it is completely unfair in one sense where, like, you know, the English class, you've got students writing papers and they're pretty crappy towards the beginning of the semester. But those are not being published and distributed for the entire school to judge, right? And so, you know, the English teacher can kind of dodge that public bullet that we could not every single week. Our reputation as teachers and educators was on the line every single week, and we had to take responsibility. Yeah. So this was a very, very challenging format that for years we were trying to figure out. I got here in 2018 and was working with Shelby Kimple, who had previously worked under her jurisdiction. It was a very social media, fun and games heavy broadcast, which was so fun. And so many people on campus have very, very fond memories of it. When I stepped in, I sensed that there was a tension, and maybe it was mostly in my own heart, just trying to figure out, are we trying to train up quality journalists or quality content creators? Because those are so different. And I think I had a bend towards, as I always do, toward the more serious narrative pieces. And so I had difficulty steering this Titanic, you know, of a program away from social media, fun and games into true journalism, because the students who were coming in were maybe middle schoolers when the program started, and they were watching these fun morning announcements and wanting to be a part of it, but really just wanting the fun. And being, you know, kind of caught off guard when I wanted to take it in a more serious direction. And then even as a school body, I think we all, meaning our leadership and the faculty and myself included, we all kind of had that confusion where some of us wanted it to be one way, some of us wanted it to be another way. And on top of that, the stress of the workload, we ended up asking to go to, I think, bi-weekly deliveries.
We did. Well, when we were both co-teaching that class,
yes,
we did weekly, but you took every other. We took every other week on each other. And then when it was just me teaching it the year after, that happen, right?
So this was very challenging. I believe that morning announcements could be, broadcasting could be a strong and very enjoyable culture building program at a school. But I think if you're going to do it right, you need two things. One, you need full-time dedicated faculty members who are really just concerned with morning news, just like that New Jersey school.
Yeah.
And also you do need student buy-in, which I'm not sure you can really get anymore because students aren't getting their news through the news. So it's not being modeled for them.
Yeah.
And so they have no appreciation for it or desire. And they don't even have the frustration where they're like, Fox or CNN is not what good journalism used to be. You know, like they just don't care.
I mean, I'm probably in that camp too as a younger teacher.
Yeah. I've never like turned on the news, you know.
Just if I'm at like there's a Greek place near my house, like where I get food. I've eaten there like all
Slovakia.
the time. Slovakia.
Yes.
And there's like there's news in the corner, and then I'm like, oh, bowling. You know, that's about all the news I get.
Right. And so I think we were not equipped because we're part of a generation that doesn't really care about that sort of media. And so, well, it was somewhat doomed to be a challenging and not altogether amazing program, which was really hard for us because I think King's Academy's campus already, there were so many shining programs when I stepped on foot here. We had stepped foot on here. We had the theater, which was ranked recently in, I believe, the top 5 theater companies.
It's beautiful.
Amazing. We had the pre-law endowment had just come in. So we had a pre-law program on campus. I think sports medicine was already taking off. And so for the media guys to be producing these semi-social media videos, I just knew we could do better. And I thought it required a huge shift. Now, when I had come into the program, Macy Norton had come before me, and she had already developed a Film 1, Film 2, Film 3, and Photography 1 and 2. So already there was a movement to make our offerings more robust and not just have the morning announcements. So when I took over, I saw great opportunity there, and I started pouring a lot of my attention into developing these film classes with the flagship of the program being Film 3, where we would, just like we did in college, work on weekends, select weekends, to produce an incredible short film, 1 per semester was my plan. That's
pretty good.
Yeah, and it would blow people away is what I thought. So I believe it was the year before you came.
It was.
I had my first batch of Film 3 students, and I had to convince them, coming off of a totally different, teacher and program, I had to convince them that it was a good idea for them to spend a weekend in the studio filming a space movie. And I'll never forget Morgan Winters, Garrett Weisberg, and Ray Koliakovo. Wow. They were the 3 in that class, and they said, okay.
Wait, they were the 3 in class who said okay, or they were the whole class?
I think they were the whole class.
Okay, well, good you got 100% buy-in.
Yes, but I really do think if it wasn't for them and their willingness to be okay with pivoting, and trying something new, I don't know that Studio 70 would be what it is today. We also had Film 2 join us on that project as well, and I could name all those students too. There was Ryan Kavanaugh.
No way.
Yeah, he was in that very first class. We had Mason Shipman, Blake Hernandez, Bijan Hunter, and then we had Sydney Troutman. But those students also, there was great buy-in, and they were ready to support Film 3 in this big project.
Cool.
So we wrote, shot, edited The Firmament, our first short film. And I really thought that's kind of what the program was going to be. 1 big short film a semester.
Which honestly is like I think it's not a bad model at all, because it lets you, I know now we have the capacity to expand, but the projects, the more you extend, the fewer you can personally supervise and really make sure you give that like quality touch. We were talking yesterday about that idea of like a film can be done, or it can be done and then you can work on it for like another 3 months, and doing just 1 a semester lets you work on that and like get all the little tiny catches. The space film, that was the first one, The Firmament. So it's set mostly in a cockpit. Like you built a practical set. Could you kind of walk me through that? Did you get student buy-in for that, or was that just you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, towards the end, they were so excited about it. I remember being inspired by Narnia, the Silver Chair, I think. there's the scene where Puddleglum tells the different witch that he finds.
There's a couple witches in those books.
And he tells her, I maybe I've imagined Aslan. Maybe he's not real, but even so. And I think there's something so bold about that faith, that level of faith that says, you know what, even if you can somehow prove Christianity is like not true, it is so beautiful. It is so inspiring. I would rather keep on make believing. And so this looks apologetics in the face, which Christianity, I think Protestant Christianity by and large does very good apologetics nowadays, and says, I see you and I'll take it. I'll take apologetics, but I also don't need it because there's a spirit to my faith that is more real than real itself. And I found that Dostoevsky actually writes on this as well. So anyway, all these ideas were circulating and I'm like, we need to make a film that's going to be like, that's going to be our space odyssey. That's just epic, that declares gospel truth in a subtle way and also uses crazy visual effects that just makes our Christian community say, what the heck did Studio 70 just do? That's amazing. So now it has 1 million views on YouTube and thousands upon thousands of comments.
Please tell me about this. I know where you're going.
From flat earthers. And I'm so like,
please explain.
Oh my gosh,
how that happened.
The word firmament is somehow used in flat Earth theory to describe the way the world is really just a flat plane that has a firmament above it that is like a dome or something crazy. And so people have been coming to this video for years now and commenting, I think the creator really wants us to consider that truth can't be known and we can't just take what people tell us. And that's why flat Earth is so valuable, is because science textbooks tell us flat Earth is not true, but we can't trust that knowledge. And I'm like, where are you getting this from?
Misinterpretation of the thing is, like, you can't almost not. That, first of all, that's so funny to me that you made this film and you're like, I'm so happy for this message, and then everyone's like, we are too, and you're like, that's not what I meant. Was this reception here at Studio 70 similar? Like
no.
from the faculty?
There were some various reactions. Some people thought the VFX were super cool, and that was it.
That's nice.
For the students, I explained to them the meaning so they got it. Some faculty members just thought it was kind of like silly. It was just like, oh, that's so silly. He's, you've got Mr. Butler, who is a Bible teacher, reading this fake poetry. What an interesting little exercise. But I feel like the Book of Acts, but some believed.
Oh, man.
And some, every time we've shown it, and we've shown it, I think, on 3 different showcase occasions for various reasons, like COVID, someone comes up to me and says, I get it.
That's nice.
And that was really profound. And that's really satisfying to me, but still, I think the firmament impacted me and made me realize, you know what? Maybe the esoteric semi-apologetics art is like cool, like college Austin stuff, but maybe we should be a little more broad in our reach and a little more clear in our themes. So we immediately followed up with the pirate film the next semester, which was way more clear, fun, swashbuckling with a theme, but not like a hidden one.
It wasn't like, here's the theme of the meaning of the universe. It was more like,
yes,
friendship is nice, and sometimes people who you don't think would be that interesting, if you're nice to them, they might be interesting. It's like more of like a Pixar kind of feel. I mean, it's a pirate film, but still.
No, yeah, that's exactly it. So, and I think since then we've basically continued on that same track of general audience, simplicity, fun. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. We didn't have any like tech at the time, so we're relying on green screens. We built the set ourselves. Me and Taylor Smythe and my wife came in one weekend and just fabricated most of it. And then Garrett Weisberg, Logan Weisberg, and kind of just random classes throughout the day are like, oh, what are you working on in there? Can I help? And I'm sure there are even more students uncredited who just came into the studio and liked, gluing cables to a wall.
Right.
And to this day, that might be like among the only sets we've ever actually built.
Just a few. That and Best Medicine.
Oh yes, the Best
Although
Medicine. Brad kind of just gave that to us from
did.
the little. What was it? The Little Woman set or the?
It was from
the barbershop.
The Steel Magnolias.
Yes, yeah. He just let us steal that, which was awesome.
On the topic of your pirate theme, I wish I had time to like look up who said this or even how they said it. But the idea of when you're telling a story, if you try and tell a universal story, it's not super relatable. But if you tell a very specific story, it becomes universal. So like when you talk about somebody who's like trying to figure out, like, a lot of college student films, ours included, are like, here's someone's like sad and then they're trying to figure out the meaning of life, and then here's some shots of people walking on the beach, and it's like supposed to make you feel everything. It makes you feel nothing.
Yeah.
But if you tell a story like, oh man, this guy lost his pen and he has a meeting, you're like, oh, that's me. Like, oh,
Yes.
but like, you know, the meaning of life. And it's like, that's not the meaning of life, but it's so specific. You end up relating to everybody, even if it's about something you don't relate to at all. So the pirate film, I personally liked a lot. I like them both, but it feels definitely a little less preachy, probably. Maybe because it's not a Bible teacher that you cast.
Yeah, so that was a really fun one. We learned from the firmament that we really do need to start just paying our actors. It's not that to come and be hired professionals. It's not that Mr. Butler and Bailey did a bad job. I've really loved them and thought they did a great job.
Actually terrific.
But it was pulling teeth trying to get an actor. I remember we were just begging students or faculty, and they were the ones who said yes, you know. And I'm so glad they did. But I realized, man, what a headache. Let's just pay some people to come and do it. And so that was one huge difference with the pirate film. That's our first one with paid actors. But then second, the theme was super simple. At the time, I was really struggling with people who were like more social than me, who just liked to talk. And I don't like to talk as much.
You literally started this podcast. I'm here at your request.
Yeah, I've changed. Maybe because of the pirate film.
In 6 years of teaching, you have to do this for a living now.
Right. But there were people who just couldn't take social cues that like, I'm ready to be done with this conversation. And I was like, well, how do I deal with that? And somehow we worked that into a pirate story. It's really just about a guy who doesn't know how to take social cues, and he doesn't change. It's the one who is frustrated who has to change. And so it was really just like a letter to my own soul to like say, yo, be patient, brother.
Thanks again for joining us today. If you enjoyed our content, consider subscribing. Studio 70 is a division of the King's Academy, a K-12 private Christian school in West Palm Beach, Florida. For more information, visit studio70.tv or tka.net.